Every now and then, you get a call into a radio show that starts out confident, even smug, and then crumbles in spectacular fashion. That's exactly what you're about to hear. A Trump defender calling in, ready to argue, only to run headfirst into a wall of facts he simply can't climb over. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
When we left Europe after the referendum,
Yes.
Europe imposed on the UK a particularly tough, rigid deal that has stunted growth in the UK and, threatened our defences as well. I would rather be allied. Trump's 3.5 years left of his tenancy, and then he's gone.
Well, there's some dispute over that, isn't there? There are suggestions that he might refuse to move. We don't know what will happen, but certainly, my problem with people saying he definitely will call another election and it will be free and fair and everything will be fine is that everybody who said that the fears about Trump were exaggerated at the beginning of his second term have been proved wrong. He's been worse, if anything, than people feared. So we do have to consider that possibility, don't we?
Well, is he worse? I mean, I think we could learn a few lessons here from Trump. Not everything he's doing, obviously, is correct, but he is putting his country first, and he's doing the things. Why should he be propping up NATO with funds disproportionate to the other contributors?
Well, hang on. But we're talking about the silencing of journalists. We're talking about threatening of academic institutions, the closing down of the Department for Education, thousands of people losing their jobs through these swinging cuts, thousands of people losing millions of people losing their social security. How is that good for America?
Why should the government and taxpayers be paying for people who aren't doing a job? Why should the department? We're closing down the NHS thing here because there's a doubling of duties and we're wasting money.
Well, we're not closing down the Department of Education, though, are we? We want people to be educated to a high standard. And also welfare payments, so-called welfare payments, are shown to pay dividends in terms of the whole of society. Cutting them saves money in the short term and means that there are more expenses to the exchequer in the long term.
Possibly, but what we're doing here is trying to cut out people who are robbing the taxpayer in welfare payments, and Trump is doing the same thing. He's just not prepared to pay people who are freeloaders.
I don't think that you understand the extent to which Trump is eroding the very fabric of democracy and becoming an authoritarian.
I'm not as clever as you.
It's not a question of cleverness. It's just a question of looking at what he is doing and saying this is an authoritarian figure. This completely changes the world order. America was supposed to be the leader of the free world, and we were supposed to be allied with them, and Europe was supposed to be allied with them. And that has been the case since the end of World War II. The US administration's behavior has fundamentally messed with the dynamic of that, and we need to do something in response. So what should we do? We ally ourselves with the wannabe dictator?
I think I would rather hitch my wagon to America in the long term on the basis that Trump isn't going to be there after 3.5 years than with Europe, who we've been at war with effectively for 500 years in one form or another, and who put us to the sword when we left, even as recently as 2016. They've been
I take
harsh.
issue with your framing of that. They were very clear that there was only one type of Brexit deal that was feasible and that would be disadvantageous to the UK. You can't just allow people to leave a union and to have more benefits or equal benefits than they had before they left it. That defeats the purpose of a union. They were very clear on that from day one. It's our politicians that lied to us and said that it wouldn't affect us in the way that it has.
Okay, I accept that. I accept that. Nonetheless, Germany, France, Spain, over 400 years, those alliances have shifted tremendously in all different directions. And I would feel more secure in England with America as my security blanket than Europe as my security blanket.
And what
That's all.
about even if we were able to obtain some favour from Donald Trump, what about the fact that he famously turns on a sixpence, listens most to the last person who was in his ear, changes his mind at the last minute? What about the instability that brings about?
I don't know, but I sense that on some of the this would be a massive issue to America. I don't believe that they would want to be bad friends, call it, with the United Kingdom, given the tie-up in security information, having a solid partner on the European front. I think it's a special relationship, and Trump, I think, he loved it when Keir Starmer pulled out a letter from the King, didn't he?
But then went on to slap tariffs on our steel, so it obviously didn't mean that much to him, did it?
Well, we're putting VAT on all of his products. We're putting tariffs on his products. So, again,
in retaliation. Yeah, things are changing so quickly. I hear what you're saying, Spencer, and thank you for your call, and thank you for making your debut to LBC.
There's a lot to unpack from that exchange. And honestly, this is exactly why I wanted to share it, especially for my viewers outside the UK. Because here's the thing. The dynamic you just heard isn't unique to America. The same way you've got people in the US who will blindly follow Donald Trump, swallowing every word he says without a second thought. We've got folks here in Britain doing the exact same thing. This caller is a perfect example. He tried to fire off multiple arguments, and he was wrong on most of them, but that didn't stop him from charging ahead anyway. And credit where it's due, the host handled it brilliantly. She didn't lose her cool. She didn't get flustered. She simply batted away each flawed point with facts, logic, and a clear understanding of the issues. And the best part? Each time she dismantled one of his claims, his fallback was either, well, you'll know more than me, or, yeah, that is right. That's the tell. These are people repeating Trump's talking points as if they're gospel, but the moment they're faced with real information, the facade cracks instantly. We all know, and polling backs this up, that a huge portion of what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth simply isn't true. Yet his most loyal supporters, whether in America or here in the UK, will run with it as if it's the purest truth. That's why moments like this matter. We need more hosts, more journalists, more everyday people willing to challenge these narratives head-on. Because right now, there are far too many individuals spreading misinformation, peddling divisive rhetoric, and stirring up anger, not because they've researched the facts, but because they don't even realize what they don't know. This was a textbook example of how to handle that. The host shut down the nonsense, exposed the gaps, and did it without breaking a sweat. And trust me, whether it's across the pond or right here at home, we've got our own share of Trump bootlickers who will repeat this nonsense word for word without having the faintest idea of what they're talking about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join the community for an outsider's perspective on American politics. While you're at it, give this video a thumbs up. It helps more than you think. I'll see you in the next one.